So here we are. This is Italy, Eastern Europe.
The Black
This is
Sea there.
the yellow-blue country. I don't know if we're allowed to mention the name. But down here, just to start with, a big thing that we talk about is canals. And this is something that we sort of discovered a few years ago, is that apart from the fact that there's these massive canal systems everywhere that no one seems to have an explanation of, for who built them, most of these, what we call rivers in our cities are actually man-made canals. When you look at them, they've all got man-made edges, and they're all like these equidistant, like this is a man-made canal. You can see how
But they all have to
equidistantly and
be
straight it
level
is.
too, right? It's the amount of terraforming and engineering, and that they're built at a time supposedly before it should have been possible too, and they're everywhere. This canal system
And all these
right
lock
here
systems.
goes all the way up through the Dnieper River, and then Rostodov, I believe, River in Russia, and then up to Moscow, and then from Moscow all the way through to Kaliningrad in the Baltic Sea, out by Sweden, Finland there, and Estonia. And that it's this canal system, literally from where we are right here in the Black Sea, the Azov Sea at the edge of Ukraine, travels the entire European continent, I guess, connecting the Baltic to the Black Sea. And who built it and when? It just boggles the mind.
It's ridiculous. This one, as you can see, like all dead straight, but it just goes on forever. And they enter, oh, come on, Google, they enter lakes often, and different sort of water features, and then they just pop out the other side and keep going. Oh, come on, Google, it's not being nice, but you can see it coming all the way down here, and it just keeps going. And this, when you look at it, this is a massive infrastructure. It's huge, the amount of territory it covers, and they're just going, winding through all this farmland, nothing around them. And as you can see here, they have these lakes, and they'll come in one side down here, and then they just pop out the other side. So this was a fully integrated system, of water, and we don't know, but we think that the water was something to do with, the power, the electricity or something, or at least, the frequency. Obviously water is current, right?
But
just like electricity, but
the
you see them
infrastructure of the
connected up with the
travel and trade
stars.
too, right? That they had these full of water highways across the entire world that they had built at a time that they shouldn't have been able to even measure the ground to be stable to do it. Like it's crazy.
It is. Now look at this. So this is, can you see the imprint here of this star in the ground?
100%.
And clearly
we have the imprint of another star for it.
So just sitting there, and so this is just been leveled, and they've just built a farm on the top of it. But we see this a lot, these foundations showing through, and there's more along this line. So you can see, imagine how old that is. It's almost not there anymore. And this is along, there's a wall that connects all these, that goes along next to this man-made canal system. So, we're finding all this stuff, and it's all connected. Here's another one, right? Like this imprint of this star, and they've just built a farm over it. But that's clearly a star, what they want us to think is a star fort. Just the foundations of it. And if we come back, you can see there's a line of stars here, but we'll get into this wall as well.
Yeah, so this is what we dubbed the Great Wall of Tartaria, and that we'll be getting Olaf, the Sverker channel Olaf, to come on with us to do a full presentation of where it begins in the Black Sea, across all of the Ukraine, and then across all of Siberia into the Russian Arctic Ocean. And this is just a segment of it off of the Dnieper River in the middle of Ukraine.
And you'll see, I mean, this one, you know, is very, very hard to sort of point out, but there are, you can see sort of a bit of a star point there and down here. And that's been marked because Olaf, he's got a YouTube channel, Olaf the Sverker. He was getting the old maps of this area and overlaying them on Google Earth. And then, you know, the old maps would show where these stars were. And then he would, you know, overlay the map, and he'd find in a lot of circumstances these old stars. Because I mean, you know, otherwise imagine just randomly trying to search for this stuff. Because look, here's another one, right? Look at that imprint in the ground. I'll just wait for it to buffer a bit, but you can still see this star. And it looks like there was a bit here they couldn't get rid of. It's still sticking out the ground. But again, they've just put a farm over the top of it. You know, and there's all these other, you know, interesting, you know, circles and bits and pieces in the ground as well. And of course, always, you know, next to waterways and things.
And some of them do have like fortress names and histories, but as we go through and we've discovered, and Olaf has discovered, especially as it gets into Russia on the other side of Ukraine, that there's not even official histories for lots of these forts along this wall.
You can see this one was obviously the foundations were a bit too big and a bit too high, so they've just gone around it. But you can see, we can see a bit more in this one. We can see this point below it, which is called a cavalier. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure it's a cavalier. And if they're attached to the fort, they're called bastions. You know, this is all obviously talk about when they're war. But another thing, you know, a lot of these forts, you know, the army and the armed forces, they call them batteries, right? Batteries. And then, of course, all the troops come out and charge. So, you know, we think there's a lot hidden in the language as well, as far as what, you know, what the function of these things were. But if we come down here, we'll start to see this wall that just appears out of the landscape, and the same features. We get these, you know, we'll call them bastions, these, you know, pointy spear tips.
Also petals.
The same kind of stuff that we see here. Pedal, yeah. Petals is probably better. That's what Olaf is calling them. You know, petals is much nicer, right? Much
and
less
they're the
violent.
exact same shape and wall as, for instance, the map that we showed of New York City, the Wall Street, that wall. This is the same identical infrastructure petal bastion wall that is Wall Street, yet it's the other side of the world, and no real official history of what the wall itself was or when it was built.
Oh, did we just lose Bernie? Okay, so
I've got my camera off just to try to preserve bandwidth.
Oh, you keep cutting out a bit there. Okay, so we're just following this wall. Now, if Google would be nice, you'll see. So here, we get these pointy bits along this wall, and there's another one there. They seem to be pretty equidistant, and like Bernie was saying, these are the exact same features we see in all the star cities, and we saw in that picture of New York on Wall Street, like the wall that surrounded New York, or New Amsterdam at that point, was this exact same kind of wall. And we don't even know, you know, why they have these, you know, bastions, these pointy bits, but they're everywhere. They're just equidistant along all these old structures. And this wall, and you can see how old it is, you know, there's literally just remnants of it left. You can still see it. There's another pointy bit. And there's a big one, which probably means there's a star close by. And it just keeps going, always close to water. And then up here, see, it starts again. There's another pointy bit. So again, like Bernie was saying, there's no narrative at all as to who built this. you know, and this thing is a massive, massive construction. Still going down here, you can see another pointy bit. Down here. Oh, and look, there we have another star fort, a star just sitting in the middle of nowhere, right? And again, they've had to go around this one rather than covering it up because the base is obviously too big. So you can see that there's a connection between these walls, these stars, and as I've been mentioning, they're always close to water. Now, you can kind of see the remnants of the water here. This place as well has been bombed. It's been carpet bombed. You can see, like, if we go down to places like, it's probably not the best one, but in some areas, it's literally just pitted with holes. But you can see all the markers for this wall. It just keeps going and going. And here's another star, right?
Just
But
consistently
no narrative as to
over
who
and
built
over.
these stars. So it's and like we've been saying, this is the same stuff that you can find in, you know, the Americas, in Africa, in Europe. You know, it's the same stuff. That's why we keep saying it's built by the same civilization, right? Like, there's a bit of the wall there you can see. It's just, and you know, we sort of spent, you know, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours doing this, but with more time, we're pretty sure that this would map right across, because when I pull out, the same stuff is up here. So no doubt this system goes, I mean, and no doubt it just spreads out and goes everywhere, I would think. But up here, you know, we see these same canals and these same, you know, star forts and things up in, what's this? Is this the Baltic Sea?
Yeah, this
I think
just
this
off
used to
of the
be
Baltic
the Sea of
Sea,
Tartary, didn't it?
right
Oh,
behind.
that's the Baltic there, yeah.
Yeah, is that either St. Petersburg? Yeah, behind St. Petersburg. But so this canal system through St. Petersburg actually goes through the rivers, connects to Moscow east, and then goes south all the way down to where we were going through the Black Sea and Azov Sea and the Dnieper system there. And right
Yeah.
there, that's a prime
Yep, and
example
there you
of
can see an old star.
exactly that entire coast. And it's,
Yeah, and this is an interesting one. I think this is probably partly because of you know, water levels rising. Is this canal? It's right on the coast.
and
Look at
surely
this.
some of the canals are newer developments and newer infrastructure, but it's that when there just has to be comparative research of bringing up all of the old maps, sourcing them, and you'll be shocked at how many times there's actually even more canals in the ancient older maps than even do exist today, and you end up finding dried up ones and everything. It's just mind-boggling each time we go in.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, you know, some of this is new, and some of, you know, they've done, you know, some retro work and that, but the old system itself is, you know, is definitely old world, because, you know, it's not complete. You know, it sort of goes along, then you find some covered up bits, and then it just sort of pops out somewhere else. But they obviously, you know, are tying into it, you know, where they can use it. But I mean, so yeah, this is, look, if you look at this area, if Google will let us, I mean, you can sort of see, it just looks like it's been decimated by something. Like the landscapes you see out here, they're just very strange. Not that Google's been very helpful. And there's these just like pitted with holes and stuff. Like down here, you see all these just sort of random kind of holes, and they're just sort of everywhere. So it looks like this whole place was literally bombed out. You know, look, I mean, look at this landscape. All these,
Right, and
it's
it's
just very
similar to
strange.
like Alaska and the Yukon as well, and then all of the Siberian coast. And they claim that it's from this glacial ice scarring. But when you go into some of these ancient maps that we'll go through at the end here of Tartaria in the northeastern Siberia, where there wasn't supposed to be any former civilization, yet you'll see these castles and these cities all marked on these rivers and stuff. And then when you go through on Google Earth, it just looks like these massively blown out, bombed out former ruins and war zones.
It really does. And Google's not, oh, hang on, let's have a look. But this kind of stuff, just these kind of random, you know, holes everywhere. It's just all over this region, but also these lines in the ground. I mean, that could be a road, but look at this. This looks like a big foundation of some kind of big building. And even when we come in on these cities, we get this look where they all kind of splay out from a centerpiece. That's another thing, is all the cities, they seem to be laid out in the same way. There you go. So make sure you subscribe, share this around, guys. Stay awesome, and we'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now. Every city basically was a star city. It had these stars around them, but they were all walled, but also somatic shapes. These are the moats, we're told, right? Because we're all taught that castles and, you know, were these square buildings with a moat. But when we can see them from above, there's these intricate somatic patterns, and clearly you can see why we call them star forts, because they look like stars.
So here's one in Portugal, one of the star forts, the huge amount of terraforming around it. Amazingly, this one is still in pretty much pristine condition compared to the destruction of most of the ones you find today.
Piano notes. As you can see, these are all somatic. A sharp, B, C, and they're all these somatic shapes. These are cathedral windows, this line here. These are, you know, rose windows, they're all in cathedrals, and these are somatic patterns, which are created through frequency, so either harmonics or intention. Down here we have, this is our DNA, so these are fractals or somatic patterns of our DNA. This is what we get when it's good intention. We get these perfect, you know, geometrical shapes, and when it's bad intention, we get this goo. So this is like a polluted river, and this is like a clean river. And so if we tie this back to the cathedrals that have got these windows, and they're connected to the ether with all these spires, and then what else do we have in cathedrals but these things called organs, right? And we have these things called organs in our body, and we just, the DNA, you know, somatic is the same as some frequencies in these windows. So what this is all looking like is these are you know, healing factories, or not even healing, wellness, I guess, just to keep people well. They're pumping out frequencies.
You can literally Google any city of the old world from the 1600s and back, and it will come up in these star fort shapes, and every single one is like Venice, and there's canals everywhere. Those were the highways of the time, but they were also so much more, with all of like this hidden technology, infrastructure, and buried history.
And you can see this one again, always these big cathedrals in the cities, but here's one of the stars, right, or batteries attached into the wall. And there's even another one of these more sort of irregular shaped ones out here, but they always have these stars attached, you know, to these star cities. And again, the canals, and you know, you can see this is a big island kind of thing as well. But the thing is with water's free energy. You know, you float a boat, you use the current, right? The current.
How about the water wheels? What are water wheels? Water wheels are harnessing electrical power. Electricity just as much as it was the physical power and mechanical power that they used out of it. What's to say that windmills and water wheels weren't actually generating hydroelectric and wind power a few 500 years ago?
This is a drawing. This is New York City, right? Battery Park is because this is what was there, a battery.